Hi there.
Hi there.
Happy to have you here. So I really like the way you phrased your speech title, Leadership in Times of Uncertainty, because if we look at just what uncertainty means, we all know that this is something where we sometimes tend to lose ourselves and not really be as productive or perform as good as we usually do. When things get uncertain, this is where we usually need to ask for help. We need recipes, we need, guidance and similar things. So hopefully we're gonna get all those recipes from you today, Armin. Once again, very happy to have you here. A closing keynote of Agile Tour 2020. Armin, I think the stage is yours.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So thank you, folks. It's good to be here, talking about a fascinating field. Actually, I'm not a software developer, even though I was working with SAP many years. I know the IT industry pretty well. My background is that I'm a psychologist teaching at the Furtwangen University, which you probably don't know. It's somewhere in the south of Germany, very innovative region. And I dealt mainly with human resource management. And I came to Agile through many things. I thought that what we do in human resource management, textbook style human resource management, is no more adequate for the new world in which we live in. And one part of it is growing uncertainty. So here is my latest book. So here, Human Resources Strategies, Balancing Stability and Agility in Times of Digitization. So, and you cannot think of anything of this without dealing with leadership. And I would like to focus on this today. I would like to start where we all come from, a little bit a short look into the past. Then I will share with you thinking that's going to help you to find the right leadership role mix in times of uncertainty and what all that means. And I would like to do this as practical as possible, because around leadership there is a lot of buzz, a lot of vague things, and I would like to do it as specific as possible. And that's going to lead us to the question how the new normal will be. Might be. I mean, nobody knows, but maybe I'm going to share with you some hypotheses. So let's kick that one off. When we look at leadership, I mean, look at many companies. I just took this one. It's a large pharmaceutical company, and they have something all companies have, especially the big ones. So they have these leadership models, and these models tell leaders that, look, this is how you're supposed to be. If you want to be a good leader, then be like this. Yeah, like here, be purposeful. Okay, nice. Yeah, be future oriented. I mean, okay. Yeah. Be innovative. Yeah, that's nice. Be result driven. Yeah, that makes sense. Be collaborative. Yeah, that makes sense too. Be empowering. What is that? So it's and the idea is that be like this, and then you're gonna succeed, right? I mean, that's one way you could look at this, or look at the leadership model of Google. I mean, they have made a lot of investigation, and they have some evidence-based insights on how good leaders are or behave. I mean, they focus much more on the behavior, not how leaders should be. They focus on how good leadership works in terms of behavior. And they say things like empower team, and please do not micromanage. Okay, express interest, do this, help with career development. And then as a leader, I can have this as a kind of checklist and say, okay, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I doing that? Okay, check. Okay, 6 out of 8, I must be a good leader because I do all these nice things. So that's another way to look at this, and this is what we find in leadership theories in the past. They mostly focus on either leaders' attribute, be like this, then you're going to succeed, or they focus on behavior, do that and then you succeed. And I would say, okay, there is something in it, but that does not really help, really. I mean, sometimes maybe, but I have not yet found leaders who stand up in the morning, look at their leadership model, say, today, how can I be like this? I mean, it's very, very generic, very often, very out of the real daily situation, very abstract. And I suppose that this very often does not really help. What I would like to focus on is more on the context, on relations. I mean, isn't leadership something about relations between leaders and those who are led? Yeah, and maybe a little bit about formal structures, but isn't it more like this? And I would like to highlight a little bit the context first. And uncertainty is one part of the context. We have to understand the context in order to find the right way to lead. And when it comes to context, let's talk about this for a moment. It reminds me of a little bit history. I brought a little picture here. I don't know whether you know these guys. Who are they? Probably you don't know. I would like to talk about the man on the right side. This is Robert McNamara. Who is Robert McNamara? He was the Secretary of Defense in the administration of Lyndon B. Johnson, the former president of the United States, who you see on the left side, the former president of the United States. And you see these two men in a very typical posture at that time, because they had a lot of trouble, a lot of uncertainty to deal with. So let's talk about McNamara first. McNamara was a graduate of Harvard Business School. He was the youngest associate professor at that business school, I guess, of all time. I'm not pretty sure about that. He, in very early ages, he became the president of Ford Company. And what he did is he really boosted the success of Ford, really. I mean, he made a decent significance, we can say. And what did he do? He did apply things that we still teach in business schools or in many MBA programs, which goes back to MBO, management by objectives. And the simple idea was, okay, have a strategy first and then break down the strategy into different objectives and cascade things down from the top, allocate resources to it. But then you track like hell. You have your KPIs and everything, so that as a leader, you always see where the organization stands and so on. So very rational, very much top down, very much this waterfall principle. And that worked extremely well, really. I mean, that worked extremely well. And okay, then McNamara was asked by John F. Kennedy to join his team and to become the Secretary of Defense. And it's told that McNamara told Kennedy, well, you know, well, it's an honor, but to be honest, I don't have any experience in politics. I don't know much about politics, but okay. And then Kennedy responded by saying, well, okay, that makes two of us. I don't have an idea about politics either. So let's learn together, right? Nice story, I would say. And then it came. They had the Vietnam War at that time, the Vietnam War. And what Robert McNamara did is he applied management principles, which he successfully used in Ford for managing the war, right? So he had about 200 KPIs. So one KPI, for instance, was a body count or body count ratio. How many deaths on the Vietnam side compared to the death of our own side? So, and so he consistently used KPIs. I mean, today he would have had something like a war dashboard, something like this, and managing the board from the distance. I mean, he rarely was there in Vietnam. He knew pretty nothing about the realities there, but still he relied on the KPIs. And I mean, the Vietnam War was a complete disaster. I mean, really, it's nothing good about that. Nothing. That was a trauma. And Robert McNamara later on wrote a book titled On Retrospect. And this book is a book about agility, actually. Two things. First, he said, we never questioned our assumptions, never. They were fixed. So we never sat together and thought about, okay, are we right with our ideas? No, they never did that. So, and the usage of KPIs, it was completely wrong. I mean, it was just fixed. It was not adaptive. It was not resilient. It was nothing of that. So the idea is that what works in Ford does not work in the Vietnam War. And the question now is our reality today more like Ford or more like Vietnam? And I would not say that we are in a war. Of course not. I would go too far. But our realities are much more like Vietnam. Yeah, like Vietnam. I mean, things are hardly predictable. Things are very, very, very dynamic to an extent as we have never experienced. But our models of leadership and our models of management, they go back to an old time where things were stable. I mean, Ford at that time, I mean, that was a company, they were producing cars, and a car was a car, you know, a car. They just made it better every year. And it's very, 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 very stable, you know. I mean, I'm surrounded by the car industry here in the southern part of Germany, you know, Daimler. I mean, it's tragedy what's going on there. They still think that way, I suppose, right? Today we talk about mobility concepts. We talk about connected cars. We talk about everything, and nobody has a real clue what that is supposed to mean. And where will the car industry be in 10 years? I mean, we have an idea with Tesla and so, but I mean, nobody knows. Really, nobody knows. And there is a tremendous confusion in these areas. So this is where we are. And when we look at the work we do, and let's be a little bit academic here. I mean, we came from a world where we tried to define tasks in a way that the outcomes were clear and the processes were clear. We told the people, look, John, this is your job, do it that way, and this is the outcome. Clear outcome, clear process, and we defined tasks in a way that they were small, so that somebody could do the task 10, 100 times in a day. I mean, managing something like this is easy, right? But today we have projects like this where we do not know the outcome, not even the manager, not even the leader. We don't know how to get there. So we have to work in iterative cycles probably. And things are big. And this is the reality in which we are. It's a tremendous uncertainty, really. And this is where everything is heading to. So how is leadership in areas where uncertainty is significantly high? In the old days, we always had bosses, managers who have much general knowledge and much expertise. I mean, they were the superhero. That's why they become the leaders. And those who were led are just like the bosses, but just smaller. And if you have a question, ask the boss, right? I mean, and not the colleague. Not the customer. I mean, ask your boss, and that was a good idea because the boss knew everything. So, and today we have a situation where managers, leaders have a broad understanding, hopefully, maybe some rudimentary idea of something still, yeah. But the people they lead are experts, and they are superior in their knowledge. They're superior in their expertise. So how does leadership work in that context? And you know, this is something. I'm pretty sure that for most of you folks, this idea is well known. But sometimes for leaders, it just helps to show these few lines. Say, look, guys, are you left side? Are you right side? And most of the leaders will say, well, yeah, I would love to be left side, but actually I'm a right side. Okay, fine. So how do you guide your people when the people know much more than you? Okay, here's a software developer. And I ask the software developer, hey, John, how long does it take to produce that piece of software? And John will say, well, 200 days, I suppose. And the leader might say, 200 days? I thought 50. Why 200 days? And the developer will say, well, I could try to explain you that, but probably you won't understand. Okay, make a decision. Wow. I mean, that's the daily struggle. in where classic leadership styles don't work. And here's another thing. I mean, in old days, we always thought in vertical structures. What does that mean? I mean, there's a principle in most large firms where if there is a decision to be made, and the decision, let's say, is a decent decision with a certain risk, right? Then the decision will be escalated to the level where the risk will be perceived as being low. Okay, here's an employee making a decision about 5,000 euro. Oh, that's much money. Don't want to decide this. Okay, ask the team lead. 5,000 euro. What if I do a wrong decision? That could hurt myself. Okay, ask the departmental head. And the departmental head will say, 5,000 euro. Hey, come on, just do it. There's no risk. Okay, the thing goes up to the level where the risk is perceived as acceptable. This is how classic organizations work. But that does not necessarily mean that the decision goes to the level where the competence is the highest. It's just risk avoidance. Okay, there might be a customer somewhere, but that does not matter. I mean, the people say, I have done a good job when my boss is happy. Okay, there's a customer, but the boss will know what I have to do. So, and in agile structures, we think vertically. The bigger the decision, the more people will get involved, right? You always think, I mean, you know this, you always think and act towards the customer and the colleagues. And okay, there is a supervisor, and the supervisor makes sure that all these happen. So to a certain extent. And, these were just three elements about the context: left side, right side. And from my experience, it sometimes helped to ask leaders, look, leaders, how is it with you? How is it in your situation? Is it more left? Is it more right? And more importantly, how do you think will be the future? Huh? Okay, and what do you want in the future? What is most appropriate with regards to serving your customers well? And that's a good starting point to think about leadership, to think about the context first. From my experience, there are not so many managers, leaders that do so. And so you realize that I sometimes use the word manager, sometimes the word leader. Of course, there's a difference. And before I come to a more precise look at leadership, let me clarify one thing here, which is critical in my eyes. When we think about leadership, then based on a certain context, we have to understand the psychological nature of the ones we are leading. And I cannot do a lecture here about psychology, of course, but there is a fundamental idea in psychology you all should be aware of, is saying that the human mind consists of at least two separate systems. I mean, when you have read the book of Daniel Kahneman, Fast Thinking, Slow Thinking, then you know that. And it's the idea that the ones we lead, they have a rational part in their mind, the things where they actively think about problem solving. These are the parts which they use for speaking, or when they really think. then they use the rational part of the mind, and this is effortful, and this is slow, and this is exhausting, right? And these are the newer parts of the human brain. But we also have the intuitive level, where we more feel, which is extremely fast, very, very old. And here we share basically the same mechanic, like our the other relatives, like monkeys, horses, frogs, birds. We are not so different from them. So when we lead people, the people, they think and they feel, right? And leadership happens on both cases and just to on both levels. And now let's have a closer look. We can differentiate now not only between the rational level and the intuitive level. We can also differentiate between leadership that happens in the now, in the current moment, in the current situation, and leadership that is more about the future. Where are we heading to? I mean, that's another part of leadership, now and the future. Let's put it in that simple terms. And now we have 4 different fields to play and in leadership. And one thing is future rational level. How will the future be like? Where you really think this is something that we name a strategy. And a strategy requires thinking. It's damn complicated. And you do not create a strategy just in a 2-hour workshop. That's a process where some companies even, engage very, very, very expensive consultants. I mean, you know all these names, right? It's incredible. In the end, you have 200 slides about the strategy. And now I know some companies saying, well, our people, they should understand the strategy. I would say no. How should they? I mean, you worked on that piece for months. And now you want that John, who is doing some software development, John is supposed to understand the strategy. I mean, really? Wow. John does not possess an MBA and he was not involved in that process. Okay, you get these 200 slides or maybe a comprised version of it, 20 slides, but you really want that the people understand it? No, they don't need to understand it. They have to feel it, and that's the vision. And the vision that addresses the feeling of the people, not primarily their rational mind. It's about, okay, look, this is where we are heading to as a company. This is where we want to be in the future. And I tell it to you in 1 or 2 or maybe 3 sentences, and the people, they instantly feel it. So the vision in my eyes is the translation of the strategy to a level where the people can understand it, feel it within a second. And I mean, there is some debate saying, okay, isn't it that the vision should come first and then the strategy? I mean, we should not debate it now, but in my eyes, it's the other way around. You better start thinking before you start feeling. And okay, that's about the future. When we look at the now, the intuitive level in the now, that's pretty much about trust. That's about, do I like my team, what do I feel when I think of my leader? It's about the relation, it's about trust, it's about even anxiety and all these things, right? And on the rational level, that's really about very specific behavior in a specific moment, leadership behavior. Here's the problem. Hey, what do we do with that problem? Now, I mean, a vision will not help in that moment. So it's in the now, it's present, we have to do something. So, and it's even not about the relation. Hey, trust me. Well, okay, nice, we trust you, but what do we do now? I mean, that's about the behavior. And I would really like to focus on this part here, the relation and the behavior. And now, leadership. Leadership happens in the now. Leadership has to deal with specific situation. And my recommendation for you is that you sit together with leaders and you think about what you can name critical leadership situation. What is a critical leadership situation? A critical leadership situation is where, as a leader, you feel that now you are in charge to a certain extent. You need to do something. But it's complicated and it's ambiguous. It's a dilemma. Well, will I do this? Will that lead to a problem? Will I do this? That will lead to problems either, but to different problems. These are the situations where you can't sleep at night and where nobody will tell you the answer. So these are critical situations. I mean, here are some very daily things. Really, and that's when we think about leadership, we have to think about these daily things. Here, 2 members are in a constant conflict. The entire team is suffering from it. You as a supervisor have to act. Maybe it must not have to be that case, but you know, so okay, what are you doing? I mean, what do you do? What do you do? You can do a lot of different things now. I mean, you can act as a judge. You can act as a facilitator. You can act as a psychotherapist. You can do nothing. You can do a lot of things. So when you ask it, hey, what do you do then? And why? Which role will you play? That's a good question here, right? A client is seriously complaining about some decent trouble. And you know this case. Yeah. The client is calling the supervisor, maybe. The client is threatening with quitting the business relationship. So it's really the hut is burning. And you know you have to act. Okay, what will you do? What will you do? And there is no right and wrong. You can do nothing. Bad idea, probably. You can say, okay, I solve it, and I tell my team what they're supposed to do. So I ask the team, hey, what do you propose? I whatever. So there are multiple things that you can do. And from my experience, very often leaders are not fully aware of which role they play in such a situation. Or here's another one. I mean, you know this. There's an employee who's constantly asking for a salary increase every month. And he considers himself as a top performer, but actually he is not. Okay, what will you do? What will you do? I mean, so again, I mean, all these nice leadership models, be purposeful, be innovative, be collaborative, or these nice models from Google very often don't help. You say, okay, these models will not give you any direction, any guidance on how you're supposed to react on such situation. So here's the thing now, when we think about leadership. I propose that there are 4 different roles you could play, and talk about this with your leaders. It's my recommendation. It's a very, very inspiring, a very productive, a very reflecting, a very insightful exercise to do that. One role you can play is the one of the boss. We all know this, right? The boss is a role that has no or just limited room in an agile setting. But okay, that's a role you can play. Boss is meaning that you are responsible. You are responsible, and you have an idea what to do. And you tell the people, look, this is how I want you to do it, and I will check it, and I will, Robert McNamara. And but there is another role, which is the coach. And you know, this term coaching is so heavily misunderstood in literature, I would say, even in the academic literature. What is a coach doing? What is a coach doing? I would define a coach as somebody who leaves the responsibility with a team. So you are responsible. So I ask question. If there is a problem, okay, what do you propose? What is your idea? What is the risk? How do you deal with that? Right? Somebody who acts as a partner, in the role of a partner, is somebody who always shares responsibility. Say, well, what are we supposed to do now? Do you share the same view on the problem as I do? Let's talk about it. What will we do? What are our options? What will we decide? You hear the we, and you act more as a facilitator or something like this. Or you say, well, as a leader, I want to act as an enabler or mentor or something like this, saying, okay, well, my job is to make sure that the people can make the decisions by themselves, that they are capable enough in terms of competencies, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of processes, so that they can do the work well. This is what I have to make sure as a manager. The employees are the stars, not me. So I have to prepare the crowd, I have to prepare the surrounding, I have to prepare the environment so that people can succeed. This is my role. So this is different roles. And of course, every leader has a kind of a role mix, and you can ask your leaders, take 10 points and share these 10 points among these 4 roles. Okay, that will change maybe, but what is your default setting? And then some manager will say, well, okay, maybe, yeah, I see myself as a coach pretty much. A little bit bossy sometimes. Yeah, I have to be sometimes, but you know, coach, that's my role. And okay, a little bit partnering, a little bit enabler, but that's my role. It might be a role mix that you might see. Nice to find this out, really. But then you ask your people, or you talk to your people, or you think about your people, and your team might expect the boss. Okay, then you are in trouble. And this is what we always find. We always find this in so many settings, that the ones who are led have a different expectations towards the role mix than the ones who are leading. And if you don't get this straight, you have a problem. When you yourself, you see as a coach because you're so agile, okay, nice. But if the people expect the boss, they will constantly bother you saying, well, hey, I don't get an answer from you. You might not be interesting. Are you even competent? Huh. Yeah. So it's important to have a same line here. Or you might yourself see as a boss. Okay, cool. But when the people expect a partner, they will really feel mistreated. They feel not really respected. And here's another thing that we constantly face with agile settings. When I see it in companies where maybe the IT team starts doing things agile, but the IT team is embedded, is nested in a larger organization, and is always struggling with the old hierarchical stable environment. So you yourself might see yourself as a coach. Okay, nice. But your manager, the CIO maybe, wants you to be a boss. And also acts like a boss, constantly asking for reports. And you see your role as protecting the team from this bossy supervisor above. And okay, you're in a bad situation there when the people still also need another role. So you see, this is a little exercise I really would recommend. It's very, very practical. It's very specific. And once you do this exercise, I also use this in coaching, in group coaching, also individual coaching, just to find the right role mix and see, okay, how is your role mix, as you understand it, embedded in the social system, and that's gonna explain a lot of things that happen on a daily basis, like joy, like understanding, productivity, but also things like misunderstanding and frustration and lack of productivity and all alike. Right? So here is an interim summary. Be aware of the context. Not in every context you need coaches, more an agile type of leadership role. Be aware about the context, right? And then be clear about the most appropriate role mix. What is your default setting? And make sure that the ones you're leading, a team, shares the same understanding of your role mix. And finally, act consequently, right? That's essential. Okay, so in times of uncertainty, bosses could be something good or something bad. In times of uncertainty, coaches can be something good and something bad. I would generally propose that in an agile setting, and this is just one part of it, you have less bosses. Definitely, you have less bosses, you have more coaches, more partner, more enabler. You know this, right? But the question now is really, we are now facing an uncertainty, a tremendous uncertainty. And the question is, what is the new normal then? Uncertainty is everywhere. Uncertainty is not only in the things you do in your project. The uncertainty is also on company level. Your uncertainty is in the society. Uncertainty is even in the entire world, in multiple shapes. Do we know how the world gonna look like in a year? It's crazy, yeah. So based on what I said, here are some contradicting things that we might find, and nobody knows the answer. Some would say, okay, now after we find ourselves in this significant uncertainty, okay, let's forget about all these nice things like democracy or agile, and so now we need a strong hand, right? A strong hand who we need strong direction given by a top authority, and we see this tendency. And I'm pretty curious how what we see now also in politics. I can tell you from Germany how that's going to change the thinking of the people. Yesterday the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, you know her. She made a lonely decision, more or less, okay, together with the presidents of the different countries of our country. But this was a very lonely decision by a very small group of people. And the parliament was not involved, not at all. I mean, it's nothing to do with democracy. I mean, the only democratic thing here is that the chancellor was elected by the people. Okay. Even some regulations that now apply in November are against the law. And everybody knows that. But okay, we can say, yeah, it's okay. I mean, we have uncertainty. We need a strong hand. And if you say we go this direction, then we go this direction. Better to have a strong hand and a clear direction than nothing, right? And the same might apply in your company and your team. I see it also in my university that the president took a very, very, very strong role. And I'm not feeling good about that. I mean, the other thing is that you share now responsible and say, hey, come on. Now in that time, that's the time where we have to share responsibility. I mean, really connect people, find solutions all together. Some would say, well, in times of uncertainty, or in particular with the case of remote work and everything, I mean, we need more control. I mean, isn't that true? I mean, you have the people all working at home. Yeah, at home office. You know what that means. Okay, you need more control. I mean, you need more control. I mean, and so managers do hard and really walking around and look over shoulder of people and knocking in door and asking, okay, where are you? And we had all this nice meeting where the managers sit in the front and tracking everything. And now the people work at home. So, okay, do you need more control? And I find some companies where they say, yeah, in those cases, we need more control. Of course we need. And more trust and self-organization. Maybe that's the answer, right? The other thing is that in times of uncertainty, I mean, with the development of new products, with the development of new business models and the like, speed was always a matter, but we still had months, maybe years in some industries. But how is it with Corona and very burning things? Do we have the time? Yeah? I mean, the bad thing about agility or agile organization is that they're very, very, very adaptive, of course, but the decisions take slower. And the good thing about dictatorship is that decisions can be made fast. I mean, really fast. Everybody who says agility is fast, yes, agility is fast in certain ways in terms of adaptation. And avoiding mistakes and all the like, you know this. But dictatorship is much faster. Yes, I mean, you just make a decision, say, look, guys, I made a decision, this is how it goes. And sometimes speed is required. And some would say, well, okay, there is no time for endless debates and democracy. But the other thing is, no, especially in those cases, we need the joint and iterative and explorative development of new working context. I mean, let's try things out and then let's talk what works the best and what not. And then we try to adapt to the new situation as fast as possible. And then things can go faster as we ever expected. But that's a different type of thinking. And the other thing is that you could say in times of uncertainty, okay, let's fall back to the strategies that we always had. I mean, that's a natural reaction of people to uncertainty. We go back to the behavioral patterns that we always had. I mean, that's really natural. It's like, okay, we can have a new culture, we can have a new way of working when the sun is shining, but now it's raining and now it's storming. So let's do the old way. Yeah, because here we feel safe and here we have established structures and behavioral patterns and all the like. Okay. And the other thing is to say, okay, no. What we need here is even more extreme, put it revolutionary resilience. Yeah, really a total adaptation of new circumstances. And we have to be resilient even in a faster pace. You know, I also follow these debates on LinkedIn and public. How will Corona change the way of the world and also the way of leadership? Nobody has an answer. And if you expect an answer from my side, sorry for disappointing you. I just can say, okay, it's going to be a matrix where somewhere we're going to find ourselves. And of course, I do hope that the right side will prove to be right. For whatever reason. So yeah, this is I would like to end with that. Yeah, what you might take home from this little keynote is that the context absolutely matters when we talk about leadership. It's not just about the right behavior. It's not about the right attributes of leader. It's the right role in the right context, yeah, and shaping the relation to the people well. This is the idea, and maybe this role mix model could help you a little bit. What that means, especially in Corona, I don't know, but maybe this model could help you a little bit to see where you are, where you are heading to, and where you want to be in the future. Okay, so we'd like to finish here, and maybe there's still room for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Armin. There is always room for questions.
Yeah.
Before we get there,
will you facilitate the questions a bit? Otherwise, I will need to now shift to my mobile, which I don't find currently.
You don't have to do that.
Okay, that's cool.
So before we go into questions, I like if I look at the whole conference, and this has a good connection to your speech. If you look at the Agile conferences, I don't know, a couple of, let's say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, everyone was focused on so much on the technical topics, like what does the product owner do, how to be a great product owner, or how to be a great Scrum Master, how to be a great Agile development team, how to set up those teams. So these are really technical things. Now I'm really happy to see that the more and more the content is around broader things. And when you presented yourself, you said, like, my background is at psychology, right? I said, well, perfect, because this is what we need to learn next. Now, when we tackle all the technical topics at the bottom as a foundational thing, we have to look broader. So if we want to become better in what we do, doesn't matter if we are Scrum Masters or product owners or someone in a management team, we have to learn psychology, because we work with people, we want to learn about their behaviors. And it's not that we have to be great at project management or some other discipline. We have to be great at management, at working with people, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to learn psychology, we have to learn leadership, personal effectiveness, like, and there are a number of books, like Start With Why, Leader to Leader model, that was presented today in the book, Turn the Ship Around, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Atomic Habits, Crucial Conversations. We have to learn about OKRs, right? Everyone talks about it, but it's super difficult to do in reality. We have to learn business administration, lean manufacturing. These are the things we have to learn. So it's not really just about the Scrum Guide and other famous Agile books.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the structural part is absolutely essential, because I strongly believe that you do not change culture by just changing the culture. You need to change the hardware first, really. But having the psychological understanding in mind is extremely helpful. And there is a lot going on. I mean, how does your incentive system work? Right? I mean, that has a lot of effects on behavior. Or, I mean, I see many companies dealing with new tools that deal with feedback, you know, and because we are all abolishing now performance appraisal, this classic stuff. It's okay. These are all very nice ideas, but don't forget the human mind. I mean, how will react people on what you intend to do? I mean, we had a very, very intense debate about what does variable pay do to the team and to the performer. And it's a unsolved psychological problem here, and we should not be naive. Yeah, really, we should not. So psychology really matters.
Yeah. Now let's get down to the questions that came from the audience. And the first one is, let's see, I see the difference in strong hand coaching for a boss. What are your thoughts on situational leadership?
My entire lecture was about situational leadership, saying there is not the right role per se, that depends on the situation. And What I see, and I had this debate about the right role mix now with I don't know how many hundred leaders in different various organizations, various industries, and I found that almost every successful leader has a little piece of boss in his role mix, meaning in some situations it's the right thing to be a boss, to act as a boss in some situations, especially when you have to make very fast decision making, where the speed of the decision making is more important than the quality of the decision, right? I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, that's the classic textbook example. I mean, probably I'm bothering you with that one, but when you're sailing and you are the skipper, there are some situations where you need a boss. Really, there's no doubt about that. And that's okay, and we should not think in too much dogmatic terms saying bosses are evil. No, they aren't.
I'm a skipper of the sailing boat. I can
So you know it.
I know it.
Yeah.
I can just.
Then you agree.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Good.
All right. So next question: Can a good leader to be not manager, or a boss? So basically, is there ability to be a good leader and not to be a manager or a boss at the same time?
I struggle a little bit with this difference between leader and manager, really. Is a manager not leading? Is a leader not managing? There is this old differentiation. We're saying leaders think in big terms, long term. It's more about mobilizing people and so on, purpose and all the like, and manager are the things, all those who get things done, more operational. But I think this is an artificial differentiation. Also, managers lead, yeah, and so I do really hard with that one, and maybe for some of you guys that it helps to have this kind of differentiation. I can say for myself, for everything I see, to me it does not help so much. So that's why I brought in this little model earlier.
I sometimes feel like this topic is a little bit exaggerated. The difference between the manager and leader.
Yeah.
Sometimes personally, when I speak in my language, I use the word manager, but I don't really mean that business administration part of the work that you usually do, right? Leadership is just embedded there. Okay, very good question on the top is, do requirements for the leader change during the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah. I mean, let's again refer to the role mix. When somebody has a role mix, let's say I want to act as a partner, for instance. I always want to involve people, and I have this leadership behavior, always telling people, hey, there's a problem, let's sit together, have a stand up, whatever. So, and now this is not possible anymore. So what can I find alternative ways to do something to maybe stick to my role mix, even though it's not possible physically? And that's one thing. How can I translate my role mix into action in a different environment? And the other thing is that for some leaders, it's required to change the role mix at all in total. Saying it's very hard to be a boss when you're not close to your people, maybe, and you don't have this old rituals, of control and tracking and dictation, so to speak. Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. That changes a lot. Yeah.
All right. So we have another pretty generic question. So probably we can narrow it down a little bit. The question is, what is a good leader? What should we do to improve leadership skills, or what is the recipe to becoming a leader? So maybe we can narrow this down. Yeah. If someone in this conference is like an individual contributor at work and is now very motivated to become a leader tomorrow, not tomorrow, but starting tomorrow, what would you suggest? What is the first big step he or she needs to make?
You don't become a leader just by wanting to become a leader. the question is really, why should you become a leader? What is the benefit for the ones you then would lead then? That's the main question. It's also something that I tell my students. You know, I'm in a business school, and sometimes I have these overambitious students who all want to become CEOs. Why should you? Why should you become a CEO? Is it just because of you, so that you will become a CEO? That's very egocentric. Whom does that help? It's the question: why should you become a CEO? For whom and how? And this is where things start in my eyes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think when that kind of question comes in, we can also ask not necessarily someone, but also ask ourselves. Okay, so you want to become, or so I want to become a CTO or CEO. What impact do I want to make? And probably if I answer that question, I get the answer to the purpose, and
exactly.
It's just like it should be very clear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, another question. In Corona, I see great examples when strong hand worked and when communities received clear vision how to help and help. What is your insight how to blend different approaches to achieve results?
It's a very big one. And
actually, the slide you're sharing right now, it can be an answer. I don't know. You tell me.
I mean, the thing is that we should be aware of whatever we do, that there is an alternative. Yeah, I see the benefit of strong hand, and there is a benefit, no doubt about it. And as skipper, you know, sometimes a strong hand is the best thing you can do. But the problem is that sometimes we forget that there is an opposite alternative. And maybe it's important to be aware of that there might be another way, and challenging what currently is happening. No?
Mm. All right, with that, I want to say vielen Dank.
Oh, bitteschön.
Vielen Dank for you. It was really big pleasure to have you here with us, discussing this, sometimes a bit philosophical, but also super, super practical things that we can apply at work about the leadership, especially in the area of uncertainty. So big thanks on behalf of Agile Lithuania team or organizers, on behalf of all the participants. Me as host, I also have just finished my part. It was really, really honored to host you guys on the main track. It was really, really interesting to speak to all the speakers, having these Q&As, and yeah, I felt like I had a lot of great intellectual discussions with all of you. So thanks for that, personally. And with that, I hand over to Remigius, who will brief you a little bit on some technical, last technical things before we close.
Yes, thank you, Lietuva. So as we came to the end of this conference, I would like to say thank you very much for all participants. Thank you very much for all speakers, and also for all the team who helped to organize this event. So for the last part, as we announced that if you stay active during the conference, there is a chance to win a prize. So the mobile application leaderboard is saying that the prize winner is Greta Šeštokaitė. So please, Greta Šeštoke. So please wrote a private message to us, or personally to me. One more time, we are really sorry if there were some technical issues during the conference, but I hope that you will be able at least to hear if there was a problem to see the view. So we will have recordings, and we will try to do our best to share with those recordings with you as soon as possible. And also we are receiving slides from speakers, so we will share those slides as well, what we will have collected so far. So one more time, thank you very much, and hope you will have a great rest of the day. And I think if someone would like to have an informal discussion, we can stay in this meeting without, like, we can close recording of this track, and we can continue having some discussion if you want to give some words to us. Also, one more thing what I probably forgot to mention is that please leave feedback for all events. In Hova, under resources menu on the left-hand side, you can find feedback link. So please leave feedback about the event, what you like, what you dislike. And also, if you will leave your contact details, there is one more chance to get some prize from us. Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know if Leo wants to say also a few words.
He has to.
So Leo, then the stage is yours.
I had problems with unmuting, and I guess you already hear me, yeah? Great. Thanks, everyone, and thanks especially for team one more time. A lot of volunteers has participated these 2 days, and they had left all their time, and they spent with you in the back end helping and trying to help whatever the best they could. So sorry one more time if some session didn't go like we planned, and we had some workshop session which kind of was not according to plan. So sorry for that. We hope nobody too angry about that. It's new tool. I want to thank also to our sponsors. You see them in the background. So I hope coaching clinic was used and you have got knowledge and consultation from great Agile coach which working there, and I know them personally, and they really have a lot of experience. So I hope you have used this tool to help yourself. And also thanks for Indoform for our videos and help with that technical stuff. In this event, we had more than 200 participants, so it's quite good retention we had for those 2 days, because in the live event we have a little bit lower retention. So I'm glad that online event has more other pros, yeah, and cons also. But still, that's great that many people are keeping and listening for us. And one more thing about videos. So Mary, have mentioned that in 2020, 2 weeks is quite long time. Yeah, so let's hope we will make it sooner than 2 weeks. And we promise you to make our best. But again, we are not everything people, so we have technical sometimes issues, difficulties, and we need knowledge on different things, but we will do our best, and I hope Indoform will help us about this. And the last message I would like you to take from my talk and from myself. So communication is quite important thing. And yesterday after the conference, I have got message that my daughter had contact with COVID person. And I was quite angry when I've got this information after the test was confirmed positive. Yeah, but we understand that person probably has gone to the testing, has sent samples somewhere. So 1 or 2 days it was, the person knew that there is a possibility of corona. And this would be much better when the person would inform close contacts about that. And this is about communication and transparency and timely communication, because we live with our parents under one roof in different flats, but still. And our kid also from time to time goes to her grandparents. Also, we have holidays in the schools this week, and we have grandmother of our child, and we wanted to go there and talk to her. So this shows how information broadcast and timely information can help to have right decisions and correct decisions. Without that information, I can't choose to make those right decisions. So this is my note, yeah, just talk to people and inform about risks, about things you are doing or you are planning to do. It's about transparency. You can follow the process and everything is okay. But if there is possibility to make communication more transparent and timely, this can help avoid problems, situations, and I think even worse could be avoided with discussion, with communication, and with talk to each other. So this is my message, and I hear and see a lot of speakers also talk about that communication and transparency is very, very important. And the same Agile Manifesto talks about that. So be safe and have timely communication around. Thank you very much, everyone. And I think we can stop recording and move on to the informal sessions and share the ideas, share the thanks, and maybe applause to our volunteers, to our speakers, and everyone. Thank you. Turn on cameras and share your claps with us. Thank you.